Let's talk about the 7 stupid things to avoid if you, as a B2B consultant, want to hit $1 million in revenue in the new year. There are several things that can keep you from reaching this goal, and I've summarized them in the following 7 steps. Some of them are reminders to myself, but others are mistakes that I see frequently people make when they are either starting out or where they want to scale their business, and that very often get them off track and pursuing the wrong things. So let's get started with number one, and that is networking. Networking is one of those bicycles in an era of supersonic jets. You simply do not have to do any networking in order to grow your business to $1 million in revenue. Now, if you enjoy networking, that's a different story, but I thought that our main purpose here was to grow our business in the new year. And for that, networking is, except for a very few special circumstances, which I'm going to get to, is a very low leverage activity. And what do I mean by that? We live in an era where if you put a video online that people can watch asynchronously after you've recorded it, and then they can get value from that video, and then they will contact you. This is one of the ways to get clients in the 21st century. Networking is something that you needed to do 100 years ago in order to win B2B clients. Now you don't have to do that anymore. You can also set up systems so that you can approach people, let's say 100 people manually every day, and you can do this very scalably, still maintaining a personal connection to them and personalizing the outreach message. This is a million times more efficient than the classic networking, where, for example, you go to events or you just try to come up with ways how you can activate your existing network and, asking people for coffees and this kind of stuff. It's just a very inefficient activity. And I would strongly recommend you that if right now you're mainly depending on referrals, and if you don't have built ways that allow you to approach, let's say, 100 strangers every day, that in the new year that you prioritize that over the next session of networking, over catching up with people over coffee, and so on. Especially if you already have success stories built, if you have testimonials, then you have a much higher chance of, when you approach 100 people, that at least one of them, two of them will want to have a call with you to explore how you can help them. And you do not need networking for that. Now, I mentioned that there's a couple of exceptions where networking is useful and probably the only way how to get going. And that is, for example, when you're at the very early stages in your business and you truly don't know what your target audience might want, in which case you're probably not yet shooting for $1 million in revenue, so it's not all that applicable. But in this case, networking makes a lot of sense. Activating your existing network, seeing who among your friends and family and acquaintances and past work colleagues could be, somebody to talk to and just inform you on how the industry works. Now, that's fine. And the other area where networking is permissible and where it kind of makes sense to do, and where you can even do to reach $1 million in revenue, that is if you sell a service that is already very, very high ticket by itself, like we're talking multiple six figures. I once worked with a boutique consulting firm that was serving a very specialized market in the private equity space. They were doing due diligence for private equity companies in the industrial sector. And that is such a specialized area. And the deals that they can get are potentially so big, like we're talking, I think the minimum was about 150,000, 125,000. And average ticket value was somewhere in the range of $250,000. Then in this case, of course, it makes a lot of sense to network, because just the next person who could get you the next deal could literally be at the next event where you might meet them, right? But of course, these networking events that are okay to go to are only those networking events where these types of caliber of people congregate. So you're not allowed to go to the Chamber of Commerce monthly drinks and get together. No major decision makers will truly be there, right? Those are people who, similarly to you, are looking to get their next gig, and no real heavy hitter is going to be at those. However, of course, if it's an invite-only conference where private equity partners regularly congregate, then by all means, it's a good place to network. And in this case, you have my permission to go networking. Number two thing to avoid is partnerships. Engaging in partnerships, trying to find partnerships and so on, with the express aim that this partner, this person who you found, has some kind of complementarity to you, and they could help you win clients by referring you to their network in some kind of systematic way. I recently spoke to a prospect who told me how his current plans are to do an outreach campaign to start reaching out to people who could refer him to their clients, and they would get a cut from him. And in his case, it made a little bit of sense because he already had a couple of success stories under his belt, so he could credibly point to something. So that was his plan. And I'm thinking, if he had several of these potential referrers and if he had signals that it has worked with one of them and he just needs to replicate the same model, he does not need to create custom partnership terms for every situation, then maybe. But in most cases, these types of partnerships are extremely time consuming. You have to build relationships with strangers who need to then refer you. They are putting their reputation on the line. And how likely are they going to do that when they've just met you? Even if they had one or two Zoom calls with you, are they really going to be comfortable referring you to their clients who they have a massive stake in maintaining a good relationship with? Is that really going to happen? And especially if you're not yet in a multi six figure, even seven figure type of consultant, do you think that you have the credibility to be referred by other people who have just recently met you? That's the thing. So partnerships tend to be very often very seductive as you are starting out because you think, yeah, synergies, let's network. Right? It's very often tied to networking. But as you think about synergies and this person could refer you there and so on, the problem is of the opportunity cost. Because while you are trying to strike up that next partnership, you could be actually approaching a possible client and making them offers that they would then reject and tell you why. And you are learning so much more from that process. Of course, it's much more painful, but you're learning way more from that process. And you are gaining market intelligence that can help you to improve your offer and then gradually sell more. So the opportunity cost of, especially early on as you're building partnerships, is incredibly high. And it is my wish to you for the new year that you actually stop engaging in them and don't build new partnerships. What to do instead? Very simple. Focus on the three things that will get you clients. Have an amazing product and service delivery. Number two, reach out to 100 people every day. And number three, publish reasonably good content that shows that you are an expert in your field. Those would be the things that get you much more clients than any possible partnership could. Number three is distractions. Your first million is truly the most jealous one. It is constantly testing you to see if you are worthy of it entering your house. That's how I like to see it. Now, you will notice that with many people who already have a couple of millions in the bank, that the next million is pretty easy, right? It just comes even if you are, dabbling in different activities. But the first million, and this is also something that Charlie Munger, one of my most recent heroes who I'm really getting into, said, is that the first 100,000 are a bitch, right? The first 100,000 to have on the bank account are really difficult to get. I see the first million as the big challenge. And I really see it the more I'm truly focused on my business and I do not allow any distractions to come in, the faster the progress is that I make. I'm pretty hardcore in this. I include everything as a distraction that is not your family, taking care of your family and taking care of your health, especially as far as health is concerned. You can also overdo it. Like you do not need the 45 minutes infrared sauna, followed by yoga, followed by cardio, and then every day to hit the gym, right? You don't need to do that. Just do the bare minimum that keeps you healthy and focus on your work, right? I think 1 hour per day of any health related activities is more than enough. And outside of that, everything else health related, unless you have an illness, of course, totally different story. But otherwise, just to maintain your existing health, everything else is a distraction, as is anything that has not to do with your family. Like you have three things as you're pursuing your first million in revenue, you have three things on your agenda. Number one, and first and foremost, is of course your health. If you don't have that, then there's nothing else that makes even sense to do. But as long as that is taken care of, then the next thing is your family. Family needs to be taken care of. But other than that, there's only work. There's only work. There's no hobbies. There is no outside projects. There are no passion interest. There is even no reading. Maybe some reading, some fiction, just so that your brain can relax at the end of the day. But other than that, there is really, I challenge you for this, especially for the new year. Do not allow distractions that do not add any value to you. That has been a big bugbear of mine for a long time. I used to be pretty addicted to the news and to Twitter and to just make sure that I'm on top of the issues and so on. It does not add any value. And it was a gradual process over the last 2 years that I've weaned myself off it, because also, as far as the news is concerned, you face a lot of social pressure. And I faced the social pressure from some parts in my family who told me, like, how on earth can you get by without reading the news? You are such an uneducated person if you don't follow the news. And that has been inculcated in my brain for decades. So it took me quite a lot of time to unprogram that. And it's been successful. It also helps to have freedom.to on my computer. And I promise this is not a sponsored message or anything like that, but I strongly recommend that you, if you have similar challenges, install Freedom.to on your computer, add all news sites under the blocked category, and it will not allow you to just randomly drift away and look at the news. So that is one distraction category, right? As you're working, that your mind drifts away and you do something else. Okay. The famous YouTube cat videos. Okay. So that's one area of distraction to avoid. Second type of distraction, which is probably even more pernicious than just getting occasionally distracted by the news, is if you are actually pursuing 2 or 3 different things at the same time. I recently spoke to somebody who is trying to get his consulting business off the ground, is sort of interviewing for a job partially, and also is dabbling in real estate. And this person has absolutely no chance of succeeding, of getting their consulting business off the ground because they are not focused enough. So any projects that you may have, even if it's like you're actively involved in a charity, it's perfectly fine if you want to do this. Just don't expect that your business will get you to, let's say, if you're at, couple of 6 figures at this point, do not expect that you will get to $1 million in revenue, right? It's just, you need really pure laser-like focus on that one thing. So those are relatively easy distractions to identify and to kill off. Like once you know that, no, you have to bundle all your energy together and just focus it on one thing. As long as you recognize that, then we're fine. The problem turns up when distractions are hard to spot. And it recently happened to me because I was thinking, hey, let us add fitness into the product, right? So we help B2B consultants build client acquisition systems and stop depending on referrals. That's what we do. And I realized how much better I was feeling when I was, maintaining my fitness regime and eating well. And I thought, let's just add that. I'm going to get somebody who's a real expert in this field, who can support my wife, who has a nutrition and fitness coaching background, but she's not practicing it very much. And these two can join forces and put together a kick-ass module that will serve my clients. I was thinking that would be a great way to approach people with this new offering. And I realized it's just a distraction. People are responding to my offer. I don't need to create a new offering so that more people sign up. I just need to send the same offer to more people. That's it. And that was one of those distraction points where I spent probably some 24 hours thinking about it, and it was just a distraction. I simply should have swatted that away. And it has definitely taken up some mental bandwidth. And I put out some feelers, I messaged a couple of people, and I wrote like a basic concept of this module. And I easily lost 3 hours on this just from pure cognitive capacity point of view. So it was definitely not a good way to spend my time. It was a distraction. My product, my service is selling. I simply need to make sure that I approach more people, that I sell better, and that I have better follow-ups and all of that. That needs to be in place. I do not need the distraction of changing significant things about my product. So how can you detect those distractions that you cannot spot immediately? I use a very simple formula, a very simple heuristic. You can get to $1 million in revenue using one offer, one avatar, and one channel. Okay, now if this channel is LinkedIn, you might want to add cold email to it, but those 3, offer, avatar, channel, as long as you have a good offer that sells, just sell it to more people. Do more, increase your volume when it comes to outreach, when it comes to ads, whatever it is that books you calls, just do more of the same. Everything else is a distraction. Number 4 is focusing too much on content and betting on it to become the vehicle to get you to $1 million in revenue. So here's what I mean by that. And it's not really a stupid thing to focus on content. Content is always great as long as it's like really genuine, you know what you're talking about, and it has already delivered you results, and that's great. But I just believe, and it's a judgment call, that I think you're much better off focusing on outbound as the vehicle to get you to 7 figures. And then your content will be all the more impactful. If you can then show that your methodology is so good, that you're a 7-figure business, your content will simply get far more reach than in the alternative scenario where you're using it mainly to get to 7 figures. Outbound, and especially ads, but we're not at the point where we're running ads yet, but outbound, cold email, cold LinkedIn, has so much more leverage and so much more predictability. You just know once you have a winning angle, once you have a winning formula, an offer that works, you have such a predictable way of booking sales calls that focusing on content, I believe, if you are at a, let's say, high or mid-level 6-figure range, you want to get to 7 figures, content is not the way. Make content the thing that gets you from 1 million to then 3 million, right? In combination with maybe ads or even more outbound, that's fine. Get to that million first using outreach only. At least it's my plan. You don't have to agree with that one. That one is the least stupid of the 7 things, but I just wanted to bring it out there because that is something that I see many people not necessarily struggle with, but every time I mention this, a little light goes on in their head and they find this idea at least worth considering. So I wanted to bring it up to you as well. Okay, stupid thing number 5, and that is a really stupid thing, is listening to pillow people. Pillow people are just everywhere. They're the people who just tell you, take a rest and you should, do self-care and be really nice to yourself and don't work too much, and hustle culture so bad. And they're just everywhere. On LinkedIn, the majority of people are pillow people. They always will applaud to somebody who says, no, I just took the day off to be with myself and to just enjoy the day and smell the roses, right? You'll get that all the time. And there's nothing wrong with smelling the roses. The problem is that if you have a goal to reach your next level, then the multitude, the amount of people that are giving you these types of opinions can be so overwhelming that you will actually absorb that. There's a famous saying, I'm sure you know it, is that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, if you have somebody who you regularly interact with on, let's say, LinkedIn or any other social media platform of your choice, and this is a person who has these types of attitudes, like, why do you even want to get to a 7-figure business? Why do you care? Why all the hustle? And this slowly seeps inside of you, and you allow this to influence you. It really is going to destroy a lot. Like, I sensed this over Christmas. I had my family come over, and there was one conversation that I had with a family member where they just told me, well, just stay at the current level. Why do you even need to get more than this? You're already making so much. And sure, from their point of view, I am making quite a bit more than they ever made. But it's like, why should I even listen? This person does not have a lifestyle that I aspire to. So why should I listen to what this person has to say? These people are perfectly lovely people. It's just that when it comes to their outlook, they are basically the majority of people. And the majority simply have one commonality: they're not rich. So you don't want to, if this is your goal, making 7 figures in the new year, be very aware who you allow to influence you. And that includes people who you have not even met, people who you regularly interact with on LinkedIn. And especially because these types of posts, oh, I'm in the bathtub and I'm taking it easy today and I'm not working because life is more than hustle. These types of posts get a lot of engagement. So you will get this false perception of, oh, this is actually correct, because a lot of engagement very often short circuits our brain and we think, oh, a lot of engagement must be right then, must be true. And that is wrong. So really stupid thing to do in the new year is allowing pillow people to influence what you believe and what you think. Number 6 of the stupid things to avoid in the new year is getting training in the wrong sequence. What do I mean by that? I believe you should get training in the thing that you need the most as the immediate next step, not something that you will need a couple of months from now. Perfect example of this. Recently signed up a client who, before signing up with us, had a sales training. And I asked him how the sales training went. And he said, amazing, just lovely. The guy was excellent, delivered an amazing, helped us with our pitch and delivered incredibly well. Very charismatic person. And I said, well, how much new business has this led to? And he was like, nothing really. That's why? Well, because we simply did not have enough sales calls to try his methods with. And that's a problem, right? So if you practice your sales pitch before you have sales calls lined up, well, you will not be very successful at this. It will not give you positive ROI. So this person just simply took the wrong approach, took trainings in the wrong sequence. And that is why they're working with me now. The first things will be that we will help them book sales calls. That's the first thing. And even before that comes, we need to decide on what is the correct offer for which avatar. They've had multiple avatars. We need to focus on one. What's going to be our offer? And then we will approach people in this target market. And only then, once they book calls, then we will look at, okay, how do you deliver the sales call? How do you sell to them? What script do you use? And of course, they will not be when the sales call is 3 days from now. They will not be world champions at it, but at least we got things in the right sequence. Now they know how to replicate it. They will record their sales calls, listen back to it, get better at it, but we have things in the right sequence now. Super important. So avoid this at all costs. Do not get your training, any kind of coaching that you're doing, in the wrong sequence. What is next? Focus on only that. Once you solve that, solve the next problem. Number 7 of the 7 most stupid things that you could be doing in the new year That is allowing anything to prevent you from approaching 100 people every workday. Truly, it is so easy. Life becomes so much better when you build systems that allow you to approach in a quality way, not just like spamming them with always the same kind of email copy, but truly build systems that allow you to personalize a message so that you can approach 100 prospective clients every day. It was a game changer for me, and I strongly recommend that you build that first. It might not get you to a million run rate just yet. I'm at about 100 people every day, and I haven't reached a million yet, but it's my goal for the new year. And it's the baseline. 100 people every day is the baseline. Most experienced prospectors consider this as something that they do in the first half of the day. So there is way more that you can do than 100 people a day. It's the baseline. And please do not allow anything else. No conversations with pillow people, no thinking about starting partnerships, no networking, etc. That must not prevent you from doing this type of outreach. 100 people every day. I wish you a wonderful new year and all the success that you can possibly carry on your shoulders.